Captain America, but you're not Steve Rogers. You're right. I'm not.
Okay, so Brave New World is finally here, and just in time to save the MCU for the 20th time. I went to watch it last night, and I realized what doesn't work and what works, but mostly what doesn't work. I'm going in deep on this one, so let's dive right in. So Brave New World, or BNW, is a film that has been in production hell for a few years now, with rewrites, reshoots, and just plain problems. It just had to do way too many things at one time. It's more ambitious than Lizzo at a Weight Watchers meeting. It also had to introduce Sam Wilson as Captain America to the world, not just to the dwindling Disney Plus audience. It had to bury the old Marvel and establish a new path going forward, tease the quote-unquote new Avengers, introduce Adamantium.
He said it!
Act as Eternals 1.5 and do it as a grounded and gritty spy thriller in the vein of The Manchurian Candidate with no less than 3 villains. Yeah, I got a bad feeling about this. The best films have the most efficient storylines. They can add complex storytelling elements on the way from point A to point B in order to help build tension and give the protagonist a challenge, but they're quite simple in as far as the mechanics are concerned. BNW is not one of those films. The first problem is that Marvel is taking on the controversial decision of giving the mantle of Captain America to Sam Wilson. Now, I've always been a huge Anthony Mackie fan and loved him as Falcon, but just like Blade, there's only gonna ever be one Cap. This is a decision that has haunted Marvel since Endgame, dividing the fan base, and it hasn't made a good case for him in either Falcon and the Winter Soldier or this film. I mean, he's just a dude without powers. A dude without powers in some bullshit magic suit that he didn't create. In fact, he didn't earn any of it. So why the hell do I want to watch him in a superhero movie? It didn't work with Hawkeye.
Do your thing. I'm out of arrows. I'm all out of arrows. I don't have any more. So, I guess I'm done, right?
It barely works for Black Widow, and she's a super spy with super skills, and she's not too hard on the eyes. So BNW basically gives this regular guy a magic suit, so he doesn't look like too much of a pussy in front of the villains. The movie goes out of its way to show us that he does things impossible for a man pushing the upper limits of human abilities. Whether it's taking a serrated knife to the chest about 4 or 5 inches deep with little to no damage.
Number one bullshit guy. He do the wee woo.
Because of course, there aren't any vital organs in that area except for, lungs, or slamming onto the ground like a bat out of hell, in a feat of incredulity that would have made mashed potatoes out of any man's knees. I actually love shows that feature grounded, street-level heroes like Punisher and Daredevil, but you need boss-level writing and character development for that to work. In Brave New World, they pit a regular man against gods and monsters and loudly proclaim, "Fuck physics and believability." The contrast between a man in his bullshit magic suit trying to solve a mystery, juxtaposed with the superpowered villains, conflict each other to the point that the audience is way beyond suspending disbelief. Except for a 5-minute battle of no consequence. I'm not really sure what the actual point of Thunderbolt Ross's character was in the original film before the edits. He's definitely there to introduce the idea of the new Avengers group, and he gives the main protagonist the motivation, which ends up being absolutely anticlimactic. And like I said, BNW also tries to shoehorn Adamantium, tying in the events of the Eternals, which is fitting because these two have the second and third worst ratings in MCU history. As a Marvel movie, it slightly edges out Ant-Man Quantumania. Yeah, we haven't forgotten this abomination. And is a distant second to the most entertaining thing that Marvel has put out in 6 years. I constantly found myself lost in a story that didn't quite captivate me in its 1 hour and 58-minute runtime. And the disjointed story and cliched dialogue didn't help. I don't even want to compare this to Winter Soldier. That was a film that tackled deep and dark subject matters brilliantly, with a well-crafted story filled with intrigue, twists, and a huge emotional payoff. Not to mention a worthy adversary, and not some VeggieTales broccoli head that I don't really want to mention because I don't want to go into spoilers. They wrote well fleshed out characters with real depth. B&W was a sloppy film. Frankenstein together out of as many as 3 reshoots with decent characters, horrible lines, and an obligatory emotional ending that felt contrived and failed to deliver. So in the end, we get a mid-story that I felt wanted to be a daring spiritual successor to Winter Soldier, but ended up compromising to please as many people as possible. With a fine Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford performance, an underutilized Giancarlo Esposito, an embarrassing Ruth Bat-Seraph character who at 4 feet 11 was beating up 200-pound guys, and a cartoon-like CGI that would be more at home in a PlayStation 2 game. It wasn't terribly woke, but you definitely notice 4 times the amount of quote-unquote people of color compared to white people. I think it tried to be too much and be too many things to too many people, and you know what they say about that. I think the Rotten Tomatoes critics got it right this time. They're giving it a 49%, and I'm gonna be super generous and go as far as a 2.5 out of 5 reels. Anyway, that's all I got. Let me know what you think of the film. Like, subscribe, and do the rest of that stuff. And as always, keep watching movies.